네, 잠시 후 리처드 프리맨 하버드대학교 경제학 석좌교수님의 기조연설이 곧 시작될 예정입니다. 여러분들께서 회의장 안으로 들어오셔서 자리에 착석하여 주시기 바라겠습니다. Ladies and gentlemen, the keynote speeches are about to begin. We kindly ask all participants to please proceed into the conference room and take your seats. Once again, the keynote speeches are about to begin. We kindly ask all participants to please proceed into the conference room and take your seats. Thank you. 네, 그럼 지금부터 그 첫 번째 기조 연설을 시작하겠습니다. 네, 4차 산업혁명 시대 일의 미래라는 주제로 오늘 이야기를 함께 나눠볼 텐데요. 리처드 프리먼 하버드대학교 경제학과 석좌 교수님께서 준비하고 계십니다. 네, 리처드 프리먼 교수님께서는 노동경제학을 전공한 미국의 대표적인 경제학자입니다. 네, 학계와 행정부를 오가며 주요 경제정책의 브레인 구실을 해오셨습니다. 여러분, 리처드 프리먼 석좌 교수님을 큰 박수로 맞아주십시오.
So, I thank you for inviting me to give this talk, and I've developed a set of slides which I will go through in the talk, and in the 30 minutes I will skip some of the slides, but you'll have all the material that goes into to my thinking. And it's a great pleasure to see some old friends here from many years. I've been coming to Korea, meeting people, and to meet new people today. And I hope to continue meeting people for the rest of the conference. Okay, so this is the talk. And the first and fourth parts are a little different than the middle parts, which are more economics, direct economics. I want to start off with the idea that these AI robots and technology are everywhere, and we better define our terms carefully. So this is basically the official definition of robot, a device that performs traditional human functions, which means we're thinking of it as a substitute for human activity. The robot has some sensing capacity, because if it's going to operate in the real world, it has to be able to sense the real world. So there's all kinds of sensing things the robot sees. It can see better than you or I, because it isn't limited by the human eyes. The robot has some intelligence, and that's where the AI, artificial intelligence, comes in. And then if the robot is going to do some work that humans would do, it's got to be able to act in the real world, and that's called motion. I'm talking about AI robots that have some artificial intelligence, and I think that's where the really shocking developments have been occurring that we should pay close attention to. So the AI currently can do visual perception better than humans. It can do speech recognition, and it will eventually replace translators. It does decision making, and then what has been the shocking part of the robots in terms of mental functioning, it can beat humans at chess, it can beat humans at Go, and it can beat humans now in playing games of poker. And so I put it here as learning anything. There can be an artificial intelligence program that, if not today, in 5 years or 10 years, will beat us out in almost any learning activity. The robot is different from traditional technology, basically by being more of a substitute for humans, and it makes decisions on its own when it has this artificial intelligence. I give you the official definition of an industrial robot, and the Federation of Robotics, which is a group of all the robot companies in the world that manufacture robots, they really don't know what to call a service robot, so they just said it does useful things, excluding industrial automation. The difference between a robot and another form of physical capital machine can be quite limited. I visited yesterday with Kia Automobile, saw their welding robots, and then saw their other big machines. And if you weren't told that one was a robot and the other was just a big, powerful machine, you wouldn't necessarily have recognized a difference. And then, and this is particularly for the people in the government here, is we need much better statistics on the robotics and the artificial intelligence. No country in the world has good data here, so some of my data will come from the Federation of Robotics group, and that's very important to get new data. Well, the robots are everywhere. So this picture just shows you humanoid robots, a pizza delivery system in Australia, a soccer playing robot, a bartender, the Amazon Kiva robot, and at the end of this week in my class at Harvard, I will not be present, the head of the Amazon Kiva Robots Division is going to be telling the students about those robots and what they do. And so they're every place. I censored the sex robots from Japan, so I didn't think that was appropriate for this talk. Oops, gotta go back now. There we go. It's very important to look at what the AI experts think is going to be happening. And so this was a survey done of 352 AI experts in 2015. The paper just came out this year on May 30th, and you can download the paper and read this. They asked the experts who are making AI, when will AI outperform humans at work? And I think there's one big mistake here, but they thought that folding laundry, the AI could do that much better than us. Actually, folding laundry properly is a very much of a human task. The AI robot would have to be really smart in recognizing this is a diaper, this is an underwear, this is a shirt, et cetera, et cetera. But these are AI experts. They're not regular people doing this. Truck driver, well, we see the driverless cars are coming, and they're already arriving. I think that they say within 20 years, 15 years, we will see lots of replacements. Retail salespersons, yes, you can go to some stores, particularly in Japan, maybe here in Korea as well, and a robot that knows all your buying history will greet you and say, what are you looking for? And they know what you bought before and help you. Writing a New York Times bestseller, which these people thought could happen within, say, 35 years. That must be a little scary to the journalists among us. The Washington Post now reports that close to 1,000 stories per year are now written by robotic journalists. I believe those are mostly sports stories. So you have the which team won, which player scored the most points, and it's fairly easy to have a robot write that. And you see the list. The AI researchers think that they will be among the last to go. I'm not sure that's right either, because the AI machines, to replace an AI researcher, we just need a program that follows them carefully and etc. But this is, so the concern about the AI robots is something it's real, and the people the experts are telling us this. Okay, so here we're the boss is a robot, the robot's smarter than you, works harder than you, and are better than you. And at my visit yesterday to some factories here, there was discussion of how do you have the people work with the robots. And when I was in Australia this summer, the head of one of the banks said that's her main function. She's head of the banking HR division, and her function was to get their robots to work with their people in a good way. And then you can have your robot boyfriend or girlfriend. Korea seems to be at least having TV shows about. Now I want to get to the economics of this. And the key principle that economists use to think about robotics and AI is comparative advantage. The idea is that we shouldn't worry there will be no work for humans. A lot of the headlines in the newspapers are all about jobless world, ... No, humans can do some things better than robots. Robots can do some things better than us. And some kinds of thinking, humans can outthink the robots. Although 3 years ago, I would have said robots can't beat humans at Go. And we're going to pursue in a little bit the latest developments in the artificial intelligence that beat humans at Go. Should you say, I played Go as a young person, and then I played a Korean graduate student at Harvard who offered me all these handicaps because he knew he could beat me badly, and I was proud. I said, no, no, no. I've been playing Go for a few years, I know. And he stomped me, and then I got depressed and didn't play for a number of years. Well, today I would just roll out my AI robot to the Korean student, and I would say, here, this robot's going to be doing my playing, this machine. This discussion of robots being president, you just replaced your president. The Brits have a leader who's known as Maybot, who is very robotic, and we have a leader in the US that we only wish was as smart as a robot and showed less emotional irritations with everything and everybody. Could a robot be a professor? Well, that's me I'm thinking of, and it's true. I don't try to remember facts anymore. When students come up to me, I say, oh, look that up at Google. My memory will not be correct. And then I think, yes, but the future professors will have a link in their brain to Google search, and they therefore will be able to pretend to still know more than other people. But the question of where the robot has comparative advantage or where we have the comparative advantage. We have a history in the US and a legend in the US of John Henry. And that was a very strong man who used to build the railroads by pounding the nails into the railroad tracks. And then there came a steel driving machine. It's a famous song. And I give you the YouTubes where you can see this sung by famous American artists. And at present, our comparative advantage is in brain power. None of us would remotely try to do what the robots are doing in the machine, the robots in the factories that I visited here in Korea yesterday. In the Samsung factory, they showed these giant wafers, heavy, and they said, well, people used to carry them around the factory floor. If you dropped one, there were hugely tremendous problem, and of course, people had injuries. So we want to see the robots do that. We want to see the robots replace the firefighters. Terribly risky job. People, in the US at least, die early because of lung inhalation. It's a set of jobs. The faster we get the robots in, the better. But the question I think we have to work trouble about is whether our comparative advantage is going to be in brain power over the robots, or are we losing that? And here is the the Go, what we learned from Go. And there's Lee Sedol playing for Korea, and it's a British flag, AlphaGo, because it was a startup company in Britain that built the algorithm, which is owned by Google. And you will notice you don't see any robots there. Well, the comparative advantage of a human in that game, given that the Korean master was beaten, and later the Chinese master in Go was beaten, etc., was that it's very expensive to build a robot to move a Go piece. So they hired some human to do that. So the comparative advantage of a human was clearly not in the brain power. It was in the actual, the little physical things. At the same time, there was a set of 2 programs were being developed that beat the professionals in poker. One is called Deep Stack, and it comes from, I think, Carnegie Mellon, and the other program comes from, I think, the University of Toronto, and the idea that the robots could beat us in a kind of a game where you were looking at the other person's face, trying to figure out were they bluffing or not, ... But of course, if the robot is really good at visual recognition, it will notice the tiniest thing in your face, and it will mark that up, et cetera, et cetera. So there is now a challenge to humans, I would say, at brain power stuff. The analysis that people have given, these are now from companies that do forecasting, marketing companies. Where are we most likely to see the market develop for these AI intelligence? It's trading strategies on Wall Street and places like that. The image recognition, which affects a certain set of doctors who have been specialists at reading certain images. Now AI can do that better. Analysis of patient data, all of which is cutting at the medical thing. Content distribution of social media that I understand endangers a lot of our newspapers and things like that. So it is a substantial thing. Now I want to move to the 3 laws of robotics that I use to think about this. And if you've read Isaac Asimov when you were a kid, he has 3 laws of robotics, but mine are quite different. Mine are from the economics, not from Isaac Asimov. The first is that the robots and the AI are getting to be better and better substitutes for us. And that's what's going on. Indeed, a lot of the robotics things is they use either human brains, physical things, to try to get better and better mimics of us. Because humans are we're very competent in many ways. So if they're getting to be better and better substitutes for us, we are going to have more and more robots competing with us for whatever activities we do. 2, over time, the robots are getting cheaper. The humans may be getting cheaper too, in some countries, wages going down. But over the long term, we don't think it's going to be very healthy if the human wages go down, because there's always a cheaper robot to do what you're going to do. And over time, the production costs of the robot substitutes is technical change just means they're getting cheaper. And then this has been my main theme in kind of analyzing this, is that it depends on who owns the robots. If society broadly and people own the robots, we all will benefit. We'll have less work to do. We'll be in safer and better jobs. But we have to have income coming in. And if the robot that replaces me and replaces you is owned by some billionaire, we're in trouble. And I phrased it much more positively towards me. If I own the robot that does your job, you're in trouble. But you could say the other way around. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about the importance of substitutability. Typically, we always said that when the capital-labor ratio in a country went up, wages went up, because new machines were substitutes for old machines. If new machines are better substitutes for workers than they are for old machines, when we bring in more robots, the capital-labor ratio, rather than going up, goes down. And that's the force driving towards lower wages for workers. This is a spot welding robot, and this is some evidence, and you could, I'll just skip over it, but just say it's just evidence that yes, indeed, every year the welding robots have gotten cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, sometimes because their price goes down, but mostly because their actual capabilities go up. So it's like your computer or your cell phone. It's the same price basically that it was 5 years ago, but its capabilities have gone up, and that has occurred in industrial robots as well. And then finally, on the danger to income shares, in virtually every country in the world, and there has been declines in labor's share of income. And you see Korea is the third biggest drop in this particular period of time, 1970 to 2014. And so the share of income going to workers is shrinking, which means the share of income going to capital is increasing. And it's increasing more than is currently measured, because all of the capital income that flows to CEOs and top executives is counted as labor's income. But it's really, it is labor's income because it appears in the CEO's paycheck or in his ownership of shares, but it's actually linking the CEO to capital. And so that's important. So I think all of my three laws have some valid representation. So I just said, this just turns Malthus upside down. Malthus says we were producing so many babies, and of course Korea is a country that is aging, Japan is, Germany is, and all of the advanced countries, the baby are not producing that many babies, but the machines are substituting for the babies in terms of being able to compete with us for work. So that's my revision of Malthus. And then there's a big issue, is this analysis correct? In some places you'll see they present this as, it's the futurists who are concerned about the robots and the artificial intelligence versus, I would say, old-fashioned economists who are looking at standard productivity data. And in the past, all the fears of automation did not occur. And so there's got to be something different about today if the kind of analysis I've given you is valid. And I was brought up on a book by Herb Simon, which I read when I was a graduate student, and I just thought it was the most brilliant economics, simple economics book ever, 66. And he made a set of arguments and concluded that it was silly to worry about automation and intolerable, he called it, abundance. The real problems were scarcity. And what he lived on was that at that point of time, real wages rose for workers with productivity. Labor's share was not declining. So he dismissed fears of things. Today, all of the facts on which he made his model and analysis, I think, have been disproven. And so we need a new analysis. I taught this to my students for many years. The Simon thing is the right way to think about what was going on in the world. Now I could no longer teach that because the world has changed and the evidence is different. So what's different about this? First of all, you do not want to be competing online with the artificial intelligence. The AI lives in the digital world. We manage to do things digitally, but that's not the world we live in. We live in, quote, the offline world. The algorithms have gotten more powerful and more data, so they just keep getting better and better and better. It's widely used, and at one point I would say this, you say, well, the robot poker player can only win in poker. The Go machine can only do Go. And I would say, but give me 1,000 machines or 1,000 artificial intelligence programs, and whatever task you want to challenge me with, I got my machine to do that. Now we have a different, a really shocking thing this fall, I think, and it's more powerful, says, than previous approaches by not using human data or human expertise in any fashion. We've removed the constraints of knowledge, and it is able to create knowledge itself. This is the new Google AlphaGo machine. And it's able to, this is from the Guardian, I believe, the headline. This machine, or this algorithm, did something astounding. It knew nothing about the game of Go on Friday. It learned over a weekend so that when it played the previous Go machine that had studied all the Go games of the human masters and beaten Lee Segal and other people, it beat that machine 100-0, having just learned over one weekend. It is, just mind-boggling. And now the human Go masters are trying to understand what did it see that we had never seen. It's mostly in the middle game of Go. It basically rediscovered, without any human assistance or supervision saying that's a good move and that's a bad move, the beginning and the end part of Go, but in the middle part, it discovered new things by itself to beat humans. So it's pretty striking. This is it was Nature, if you want to read the technical article, and this just, I'm not going to go through this, but they just all the ways they tested the new machine versus the old machine and how much better it was. And the old machine beat the human masters. Boom. So where is human comparative advantage? You have a choice of hiring one of those three people over there. Those are Americans from 1930s, actually. And there's a machine, supposedly. Which one would you hire? Which has got the brains and which has got something else? So there's a real problem, real issue. We have some empirical evidence now in the United States that in cities that have more robots, the employment of workers is down, and the wages are down. So the first slide shows exposure to robots by city, and the negative means that employment fell, and the second one is wages. So it looks as if the robots are beginning to shift the demand for labor down. The comparative advantage says, oh yeah, humans eventually will get enough jobs, but it'll just be in lower wage jobs, and it'll just be continually a downward thing. The country with the greatest number of robots per capita in manufacturing is Korea, and that's why I went to visit yesterday the Korean robotics. And these are the other countries. The UK is one of the least, for whatever reason, I don't know. Germany, of the European countries, is number 1 in robotics, and about even with Japan. And Singapore is too small to worry too much about. So, but Korea really is a leader in this. This is something about the robotics market. This is forecasts of the artificial intelligence market. Just all these things, just they're saying there's going to be a lot more. We are just beginning to see this revolution. Another slide going place by place where they think this is going to occur. And you can look at the slides. I want to conclude with what are we going to do, or what can we think about? And I'll just assume that you accept my point. Comparative advantage means it's less a question of jobs, but of what kind of jobs we get and what we're going to be paid. So there's a number of things people have talked about. Bill Gates suggested a robot tax, which the British Labour Party seems to think a little bit about. And there's a set of stuff. And then Donald Trump has not yet said attack robots, but he has said attack trade and immigrants. as a substitute or something. But we know that the robots will beat us in any battle, so that's a silly thing to do. Some people favor universal basic income. I am a proponent for ownership of the companies, shares of their ownership, shares of the company that you work for, as a way of distributing the capital income more broadly. And I go through some various things. The UK has some plans. The US has a more socialist plan where we have these ESOPs where the money is held in a trust fund for all the workers. And there are different other ways. So if I was Mr. Trump, I would be selling ownership. You don't work for the robot, and we'd make humans great again. There is another way to make humans great again that the US military has been very deeply concerned with, and this is human enhancement technology, which means putting chips and things into us so we become more robotic. And Elon Musk just set up a company this summer that the only way to keep pace with artificial intelligence is to upgrade human intelligence. So we will be getting gene transplants, stem things, and there's a lot of work there. So that is making us more like the robots, I would say, but with some human stuff. And again, the Guardian actually was paying attention to the US military tests of enhancing our skills with something like that. Now, there is a question I'm not going to address, is that if we succeeded in spreading the ownership and all of us benefited from this, then becomes the question of how we would spend our leisure time. And so you see different ways people think of spending their leisure time. That's my son over there. That's actually not him, but it's what he does, is play computer games all the time. So that's, and then there's the greatest American philosopher, some of you may know him. Well, he just said, you're mad that he has better things to do than worry about this stuff. It's the baby's problem. And every time I see a baby, I keep thinking, that baby is going to be, when it grows up, competing in all kinds of work activities, including mental stuff, with robots and artificial intelligence programs that make today's artificial program look stupid beyond belief. So that's, finally, I see I'm out of time, so my last second, my extra second. I think this is a problem for us. We have a lot of time to adjust to this technological change. We have a lot of work activities for humans and for machines. There's enough poverty and misery in the world. There's climate change, et cetera. We don't have a shortage of work, et cetera. And where I disagree strongly with Simon is, he said, don't worry about the boogeyman of automation. I think we have to worry, and we have to start worrying today about policies to make sure that the benefits of what is going to be an extraordinary, is extraordinary technological change, comes to all of us and doesn't come to a small number of billionaire owners who then will be ruling all of us in a way I don't think will be overly pleasant. Thank you.
네, 오늘 좋은 강연으로 함께 해주신 리처드 프리맨 석좌교수님께 다시 한번 감사의 말씀드리겠습니다. Thank you very much for your informative presentation, overviewing the future of work in AI robots and the fourth industrial revolution. Thank you once again.